Yes, people can be interested in new ideas when those ideas are expressed clearly and effectively.
Welcome to the Research and Destroy podcast. Here's what we do. Step 1, we take a subject. Step 2, research the shit out of that subject. And Step 3, destroy the subject as we discuss what we found. With your hosts, John, Adam, and Justin.
I'm John.
I'm Adam.
I'm Justin. Today's episode, we're talking about weird and mysterious deaths. And we wanted to talk about this subject today because, there's a lot of unsolved murders and people that get killed with weird extenuating circumstances. And we kind of wanted to each pick one subject within this topic and dive in and see what we could find.
Now that we've recorded our opinions, I think we should investigate to find out whether or not our opinions are based on good reason.
Sure. Yeah. I think this one, because we have a bunch of different topics we're going to be talking about, and I think we picked this one initially because we figured it had kind of some shock value and maybe was interesting in some weird ways. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we've heard a podcast about weird, mysterious deaths, or at least I haven't.
No, I haven't either.
So I think it's
pretty
kind of
symbolic. I feel like the first episode should be all about death. I feel like that's a great way to start a podcast.
Like a phoenix will rise from
to burn ourselves down so that we could rise back up in episode 1.
All right, so what do you got, Adam?
So my mysterious death is a somewhat famous case that happened just a handful of years ago. The death of Kendrick Johnson.
I don't know this one.
Kendrick Johnson.
Do you know this? Do you know this one?
I do not know this.
Do you, John?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I don't know it either. I don't recognize the name. Maybe I recognize the circumstances. So what happened?
Okay, so it's 2013. So I'll give you a little bit of background, and then I'll ask you guys kind of what you guys think of it and what you think maybe would have happened, and we'll go from there. So on January 11th, 2013. Johnson was found. He was a teenager, and he was found headfirst in the center of a rolled up wrestling mat in his high school gym, a vertically rolled up wrestling mat.
He was upside down.
So he was technically he was upside down. So his body was discovered by some students who.
Where was this at? What area of the country or world?
This is in Georgia.
Okay. So
his body was discovered in the mat. It's about 6 foot tall mat. So they checked inside, they kind of basically tipped it over. But basically the autopsy by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation stated that Johnson died from positional asphyxia. So basically suffocated based on the way he was positioned in the mat. And the case was ruled as an accidental death by the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office. So that gives a little bit of background about it. First impressions.
That is intense. Mm-hmm. How do you die from standing up?
Well, he was standing upside down. He was. Jesus Christ. He died from standing upside down, right? And getting he wasn't crushed by the mat, right? It wasn't crushing his.
We at least don't know so far.
Okay.
I feel like if you're rolled up, it's crushing you, right?
What do you think happened, basically?
A simple wrestling accident.
and
a freak high school wrestling accident?
And then they rolled him up on the mat and they just stacked it with the other mats.
They come in the next day and they're like, all right, who's supposed to clean up these mats? You're supposed to wipe off all these teenagers.
What if it was him?
Yeah, shit. So it's a work accident.
Yeah, so that happened, right?
Jesus,
so,
okay.
Yeah, crazy stuff, right? So this is only 2013. It's not that long ago either. I don't know. I think I may have heard about this, but at the time, maybe didn't catch my ear for some reason, which I don't know why it wouldn't. But so basically, they hypothesized that he fell into the mat while looking for a shoe, and then couldn't get out. Right?
So was there a shoe down there?
Okay, so there were. So some students said that basically, all right, we're going to go through this more in a second, but basically they said that he used to share a pair of shoes, gym shoes, with another kid. Right? Sounds a little weird.
This is horrible. Somebody died.
And they used to, but some of the kids, including Kendrick, used to throw their shoes inside these coiled up mats so that they wouldn't have to pay for a gym locker, because you have to pay for a gym locker at this school.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
I mean, that's okay. What is it? Just overpopulated or something?
I don't.
Thanks,
I don't
Obama.
know. Yeah, it's Obama's fault. So
2013.
I'm not sure. So that's what the theory was, and there were a pair of shoes below his body inside the mats.
It does not sound that suspicious to me yet,
Okay.
or mysterious, frankly.
Really?
I mean, okay, so he was there by himself. He was like, "Hold on, I'll catch up, guys, or I'm gonna head home after this." And then he goes in. His shoes that were sitting on top, they fell in the opening in the center. He went to climb in and get them, got stuck. Nobody's around, and died because of it.
Okay. Also, they found
That's my
afterwards,
theory.
too, his actual shoes that were on his actual feet, because he had a separate pair of shoes, were kicked off, and they were on top of his body, like on top of his feet and legs up there. So that's another minor detail.
What do you mean
Kendrick
kicked
Johnson.
off?
So he had just had his socks on, and his shoes were lying on top of his body inside. Drum? This is a drum joke. So basically, the lieutenant who at the county sheriff's office said that we never had a credible threat that or information that said that this was anything other than an accident. The family was pretty pissed. They think that it was a murder, basically. And then they had, eventually we'll talk about it in a minute, but they had the body dug back up and re-looked at after it was initially looked at.
Yep, he's wearing shoes.
Can I know his name is Kendrick Johnson, but this story is way better if his name is Jim Matthews.
Who's Jim Matthews?
God damn it.
I don't.
Just fucking Jim Matt. Okay.
Oh, you stupid asshole.
So James, we'll go through the recap of James's murder. No, for Kendrick. Kendrick Johnson is his actual name. We'll keep that accurate.
Jesus.
So I found
clever.
the most
It's clever.
grouped up information on a Reddit post, obviously, by some guy who followed the entire case and like laid it out, where pretty much like exactly as it happened. So I will kind of take pieces of that and we'll go through it. Real quick,
Okay,
right?
yeah. All right, yeah, that's good.
So basically, on Wednesday, 2013, January 9th, school resumed at LHS. After
Is this the next day?
This is kind of how it all happened, basically. So prior.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right, leading
So
up
we're
to
gonna
it.
do like a recap. Yeah.
Got it.
So there were some big wrestling mats there. There's an old gym and a new gym. I guess they were doing some stuff on the older gym and wanted to kind of do repairs or whatever.
Mhm.
Anyways, so many students, including Kendrick, used the rolled up mats for storage for their for their shoes. Yada yada. They also, oh sorry.
2 mats. No, 2 gyms.
Sorry. Yes. So they had block schedules at the school too. Oh my God. Sorry. They had a block schedule at the
That's
school, so there's weird classes and yada yada. So at about 1:30, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So about 1:30 on Thursday the 10th, the video cameras in the school captured him walking into the gym, into the old gym. Nobody follows him.
What time was that?
1:30 p.m.
PM. Okay. He walks in
No
the
one
old
follows
gym.
him because he has a break.
Is
So no
this
one
the
follows
day
him.
before the night they find him, or the next morning they find him?
Yes, I believe it's the
Okay.
exact day before. Yes.
Okay.
So, go to the gym. No one follows him for another 3 minutes until after he enters. He was going to get a pair of shoes, supposedly, that he stored in the mats. He shared shoes with another student. And on that particular day, that mat was now behind several other mats that were recently rolled up into the old gym. He's marked absent from his next class, which is a weightlifting class. And he was expected to return home after a freshman basketball game that evening. He didn't come home that night. The next morning, Kendrick's mom was like, "Yo, what's up?" So she walks down there. She asks the administration what's going on. They don't have any information. They put some missing flyers out. At about 10:30 in the morning, that next day, fellow female students were sitting on a few mats filling out a survey of some sort. They noticed some socks
feet
sticking out of one of the mats.
You're like, yo, is
Right,
this
so-
Kendrick's feet?
Like, yo, Eric knows that. So those are Kendrick's feet.
Tube socks. He always wears tube socks. Fate would have it, and he would die in a tube.
Jeez.
They just wiped their hands and went home. No, they couldn't pull him out. So I told the teacher and the kids kind of knocked the mat over, and they partially pulled him out head first, but it was like he had already been dead for like a day or almost a day.
Yeah.
So they told the kids to go to the new gym. There was a lockdown, yada yada, and then they had
Like he would be cold by then, right? Like the body, so they're grabbing him and cold hands pulling him out.
Yeah, 24
Were his
hours.
hands up like he was trying to reach the shoes?
They're like, as far as I could tell, they were kind of up, like kind of stuffed, like
so
kind of up-ish by his body.
Yeah. Okay. Weird.
Yeah.
So I'm officially down. Like this was clearly an accident, like the way Justin described it.
So far, that's what it sounds like. So you said you made a point earlier. Let me ask this question. You made a point earlier to say at 1 something p.m. he goes to the old gym, and he has for 3 minutes no other students go in. Why did you purposely say 3 minutes?
That's just the facts. I don't know. It's just part of the video.
Okay. So like 3 minutes later, the murdering kids went in. Is that?
Maybe that's the possibility.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it a little bit. So, anyways, there's this video of the basic scene of after they pull the kids out.
Yeah.
They found They found no blood outside the mat. They found a minor amount of blood on the floor underneath the body. The shoes were off his feet
from his. Yeah.
And then there was some. There's some weird additional details, like bloody tissues were found in a trash can in a local bathroom, but then they traced them back to the DNA of somebody else.
Okay, well, it's just that's a completely irrelevant.
It was
but initially, they might be like, oh, somebody wiping off blood.
Exactly. That was a young lady,
Yeah.
Yeah, doing
something like that.
Blow.
Yeah, doing blow.
Damn thing.
Yeah. Doing the sock up back there.
This story is less mysterious and more hilarious, actually.
It's sad.
Weird. It's sad. It's also
that is a hilarious.
But the story isn't just the story. It's also what the family's like, and that I think is the most interesting part of the story.
Okay, and we haven't really gotten to that yet. Okay.
So the day after he was found, the Reverend Floyd Rose of Christian Leadership down there approached one of the family members and said he wants to run an independent investigation into the death. He agreed to help.
Reverend?
Some reverend down
Detective
there.
Reverend Floyd.
Yeah, Matthews.
He's full-time Detective Jim Matthews. Yeah, Detective Jim Matthews. Sir, you drew that on a piece of cardboard.
Sir, there's been a murder. There's no time for your pun jokes.
They get the NWA or
Call him
NAACP
Reverend Pun.
And then somebody from NAACP, Leah Touchton, was also there. So there's a rally that happens too. The family, Johnson family, locked hands and blocked the entrance to the courthouse, and they were arrested for civil disobedience.
Wait, why? Like,
Because
what was
they thought that basically from the beginning, everyone was basically saying it was an accident, and they were like, "We're not gonna let this go on. We want to have an actual investigation." But it was
hold on. I'm catching up here. I for some reason you said the NAACP was involved.
They became involved.
How did that happen?
Kid.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. I just automatically assumed white kid. I don't know why.
No. So they got involved somehow. They I don't know why they did this entire locking of hands, locking the entrance, but they did that. They got arrested for civil disobedience. And then the Reverend put up his own home as collateral for the bond out of jail of Jackie Johnson, the mother.
Weird. Okay.
So there's some weird stuff going on, right?
Well, solidarity, but so I wonder if. Okay, so is this become a racially charged death?
It a little bit, and then in May,
because what were they expecting people to?
They wanted a big lash out, a big public lash out that it was needed more investigation and more eyes on it.
Okay, they needed.
They didn't want to say that admit that it was.
What's that?
I mean, it's possible that it was something else, right?
Right. What do you mean?
What
were you saying, John?
I get it. Dead black kid in a Georgia high school. I can see why somebody might suspect something.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. All right, Adam. Go ahead. Sorry.
So anyway, there was a fundraiser rally that was hosted by Al Sharpton that happened. Who personally contributed $500, and then over $5,000 was raised during that rally. The donors, including Al Sharpton, were led to believe that the money would be raised for a reward for the murder, for investigation. The family never set a reward up. They just took the money.
To do what with it?
I don't know.
This isn't mysterious. It's just
it's
weird.
It's just weird. It's very weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
And then there's a local businessman, another guy named Roy Taylor, and he gave a $10,000 check that said within 90 days, if somebody kind of gave more information, he would give the $10,000 check to it to aid in the investigation.
Yeah, sure.
Never ended up being taken up on. A bunch of crazy stuff happened. They pulled the body back up. They basically
a second time.
So initially it went to the coroner. They did their investigation, blah blah blah, put him in the ground. Then they were like, "This isn't good enough. We're pulling him back up." They pull him back up, and they have their own investigator and their own person take a look at it.
Yeah, medical examiner.
Yes, there's a guy named Dr. Anderson that is disputing the findings. He pulls him up, and he says that this is the famous part, I guess. They found his organs were missing, and his body was stuffed with newspaper.
Newspapers from before he was dead. Some weird time loop.
So yeah, some newspapers in there, right? So he's like, "What the hell is this?"
Somebody's going to read their paper, and they're like, "What the hell, kidneys?"
I have found the cause of death. This man has no organs.
This man read himself to death.
Turns out he just ate too much newspaper. Kendrick, get it together. You guys are damn monsters.
Okay, so they basically, the weird thing is that's weird, but it's not so weird. So I guess it's not a law-breaking thing to fill it with newspapers. I guess a lot of places fill it with. They used to fill it with newspapers up to through the 70s, and now it's just not a normal practice anymore. They now fill it with either sawdust or they embalm the organs inside and put them back in after they cut them open and figure it out.
Wait. So filling dead bodies with newspapers used to be a thing
up to the 70s, apparently.
This is
what?
And it's not illegal to do it. It's just
it's for the funeral though, so they still look like they have a body. Because otherwise, their body collapsed. Like, were the organs donated or something?
They typically organs are taken out of the body and embalmed, or they're discarded like in a proper manner, and then they fill the body with something else. Because otherwise, there'd be like decaying organs inside the body, which is not a good smell and like a good thing. So I guess that's a normal practice. But the newspaper thing is like an old way of doing it. It's like a cheap way of doing it.
Well, that may just be the nature of.
Initially, it's shock value, right? Because it's like, why is his body filled with this crap?
Because people aren't used to it. That's the kind of the key here. Okay.
And when that opened up, when they opened the body and saw that, they're like, "Oh my God, somebody tampered with this body. It's now filled with newspaper. Like, what's happening?" Right?
There's newspaper the whole time.
When they dug up his body and they started finding out that there was all newspaper in there, was he like, they threw the sports section over there and they threw the comics over there?
Detective, did you find anything? Yes, Marmaduke's still not funny.
I can't find page 4.
What happens to this little girl selling brownies?
So, like, people online were like, "Oh, they're selling his organs in the black market, all this crap," and then they're like, "No, this is just black market? an old." Yeah. Okay. So anyway, moving right past that, they disputed the findings. The guy who looked at it, Dr. Anderson, basically saw there was a quote unquote blunt force trauma on his right neck. That's about a 2 to 3 centimeter bruise, and that's it. There's nothing else.
I'm off of Justin's theory now. I think there's more to it. See, this is good.
All right.
That happened.
Yeah.
It's tiny, but there's some kind of blunt force
2
trauma
to 3
there.
centimeter. That's like an inch and a half.
Yeah, that's
What?
2 to 3 centimeter.
Centimeters are smaller than inches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mean millimeters?
2 to 3 centimeters.
Yes. So 3 centimeters is about an inch and a half.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that a joke?
Hold on, I gotta research and destroy this real quick. Centimeters to
1
inches.
centimeter is 0.39 inches.
Okay,
So
it's 1.18 inches. Is what I just said. It's 1.5 inches. 3 centimeters is 1.18 inches.
Okay, so 2 to 3 centimeters. Let's just say it's an inch.
I thought you were a math major.
Let's just say it's an inch.
It's like a quarter.
I don't live in Europe. Okay, so
Well, maybe you should move to Europe because you can't do basic math.
okay, Kendrick. Okay. So they basically but he never said anything else. He said, I don't claim he was beaten, but there's a weird bruise. So people are like, oh shit, he was beaten, right? They get bruises from other
They
reasons.
say, "Oh shit, he's been beaten," and then they do. I just said.
Oh shit, he's been beaten.
So this is Dr. Anderson saying
Dr.
this stuff?
Anderson, yeah. So
Doctor of what?
That being said, for what it's worth, Dr. Anderson is now a private pathologist after being fired from the state of Florida for a myriad of unprofessional and unethical actions on his part over the years. So
I want to know one of those unethical actions, please.
Yeah,
tell
I'd
me
be
just-
interested in that. Do you have one?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Damn it.
We'll have to do another thing on Dr. Anderson.
No, I'm not interested. I already
That being
don't care.
said, they're doing some more investigation, blah blah blah. They basically they couldn't prove anything else besides that. That was the only evidence they had. There was maybe something else going on there, but that was it.
Okay.
After that being brought back up to the county again, they were like, "What's going on?" They're like, "We still are going to stick with our guns, and we still think that that's due to slippage inside of the mat from his neck or whatever." So there's no other evidence.
So
otherwise.
him just
There's no
sliding
blood.
down. That,
Yeah.
Okay. And the blood was
Yeah, there's-
probably from asphyxiation, coughing up blood, the surfaces
There
of
was
his lungs. or
only
whatever.
blood inside. There was no blood out to the mat or anything like that. There's no other blood anywhere else except for on him and below where he was. So there's
Yeah,
like no really
sucks.
cause of foul play. So
what? This is not a
basically,
mysterious
they,
death.
they investigated again and they concluded the exact same conclusion that it was accidental.
Okay.
So that being said, we'll ... now into some weird misleading stuff
Oh.
that the family was involved in, the weird stuff that they're doing. So the family first claims that there were two kids in that school that previously, I guess, had a rivalry with Kendrick.
Okay.
Brandon and/or Brian Bell. Theoretically, they think that they murdered Kendrick because their father
Wow.
is an FBI agent named Rick Bell, and they think that he set it up.
Come on.
So they said that previously there was a fight between one of those boys and Kendrick pretty recently. They did some research. It was over a year ago, and it was like a verbal scuffle on a bus. So it was nothing.
So like regular. He was in. How old was this kid?
He was like 17.
Okay, so he's in high
He was
school.
17. Yeah, he's a high school kid.
All right.
Yeah. So, anyways, they caused such a fuss
Drama.
that one of those two boys had a scholarship to FSU for football. That they retracted that because of all of the allegations.
Oh yeah.
But there was nothing about it. So it
had no like substance to it, right?
There was no substance to it. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So, and the other boy was on the way to another place in Georgia for a wrestling meet with a whole bus full of kids. And they basically claimed that like the father set it up so all the kids and the bus driver and whatever are all alibis to the murder. And those kids were all in on it. And it's all under this Rick guy who is like this FBI agent that murdered their son.
Okay.
So,
No.
and
I don't
then
like it.
Kenneth, who identified the son's body, he claimed that the media was like steering in a different direction, and that the room that he was in when his body was being and at the coroner's was hot when he got there. So like there was some other like foul play going on, and they claimed no.
Like
he took-
sexy or
Dude.
There's some slow, smooth jazz as he walked in there. He's like, "What's going on? Why are all these newspapers around?"
Jesus Christ.
A bed of newspaper.
You guys are disgusting.
And they're like, "No, that's not what happened. We have all these controls in place, yada yada." So they basically, he took a picture of the body after it had been kind of cut open, etc., and they had removed kind of the skin of the face and put it back on, etc., all this weird stuff. He took a picture of it and claimed that that's what the body looked like coming out of the mat.
Matt.
So it looked like he was all beaten up and bloody, crazy.
Who's
they're, like,
making this claim?
The father,
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Kendrick's dad.
when I die, I want you guys to stuff my body with old porno magazines.
Just in case.
That's spoiler alert. That's how you die. What happened to him? Well, he was stuffing his body with old porno magazines, and well, yeah, weird. Okay, so his father was making all these like wild accusations, kind of.
Yeah, the family's just going basically crazy trying to get some kind of traction somewhere.
Right.
Basically, there's some video surveillance that was eventually released. Like, let's release the videotapes of the school. They eventually do that because the school actually released them on their own accord. And it's just kind of old videotapes where there's like it's not perfect, and they don't always match up with the timestamps. But in general, they show him going in there. There's no video directly in the gym, but like in the hallways, they show him going in there with nobody behind him for a few minutes. Some people go in a little bit later, they go out, like nobody notices, and then like the night happens. There's like nothing else. And everybody that goes in later on too comes out like jovially, just like hanging out or whatever too. So it had to be like a big group of people if they did that. And they interviewed all the kids. All the kids' stories match up. You know, like he went in there at some point in the past. They used to use
one second, man. It looked like it stopped recording.
Okay.
Oh, I got you.
We good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the videotape doesn't like show any foul play. He goes in there. The timestamps don't all match up, but it's like an old school system from like a couple of years ago. Like they have just mediocre video recording software. It's not great high resolution. There's nothing in the actual gyms itself.
It's easily explained away by just inadequate technology.
Yeah, it's fine, and it kind of still proves the point. There's nothing that kind of counterproves anything that's been said. So
right, yeah.
It wasn't like any more useful evidence either. And then basically the people, everyone who worked on this, including people at the NAACP, left. They leave
the WNBA, yeah.
They leave the WNBA. It's a real tragedy. I don't know why that's so hard to say. Everybody who's involved in this case eventually like gets pointed at and then like falls out of it and leaves it because of the families being like so crazy about it.
What do you mean everybody that gets involved in this case?
People, the Reverend guy, he drops out. Al Sharpton drops out
because they're being so wild and unpredictable. They're like, yeah, okay, there's nothing else here. Exactly,
and they keep doing crazy stuff about it. They keep talking about it. They keep bringing it back up. There's even like a big Facebook page about it. They claim that the sheriff is in on it too, and the sheriff's son and his sometimes known as his grandson. The sheriff has no son nor grandson.
What the hell are they talking about then?
I have no idea.
So it was sensational. So in the news, the news was eating it up because these people were being crazy.
They are,
but it's kind of a non-story.
They still are to this day. Yeah, it's kind of like it's been dead, and that's why I kind of kept reading about it. It's like this murder is like it seems relatively solved, but it just keeps going on.
They're just not accepting it.
They even they put photos of the family that they think that the kids killed their son. They're putting photos of their grandmother online with "Justice will be served." This old lady's like 92.
By who? By her?
The parents.
But who's going to serve this? Who's serving the justice? The grandma?
I don't know.
It's a picture of like the Oracle from the Matrix.
It's not even this grandmother. Jesus.
It's just like just like her with like Photoshop newspapers, just like smacking her in the head into her grave,
filling her body.
So anyway,
you know when you're, you know when you roll silly putty across newspaper.
Yeah, that's.
And then stuff that newspaper into a dead kid's body.
Right, and then exactly, just like in the 70s.
So there's alibis all around. There's nothing crazy about going on it. And basically, the end goal, the end point is that he went in there, grabbed his shoes, just like you said. He tried to go down there. He realized he wasn't tall enough to kind of get the shoes and get out. And since it was so tight and constricting, when he put his hands down, he couldn't get his arms back up and out to pull himself back up.
Because his weight probably wedged him in. Right?
Yep. And he slipped down a little bit too. He just kept on going deeper and deeper, and then he had to kick out his shoes in like desperation to try to like get his feet on something.
Yeah,
that's
Honestly,
basically
it's just a super embarrassing death, and like they tried to make it into something more than what it was.
Yeah, right. They thought somebody. I mean, it's right. They wanted somebody to blame.
Exactly. Like that's an odd way. Like if you're gonna murder somebody, that's an odd way to do it. Like let's put them upside down in a gym mat. Like that's
it's a genius way to do it if you don't want to get caught.
I mean, I guess.
Especially if you hit him with a 1.5 inch something to kill him on his neck.
Like a beef peen hammer or whatever. The heck?
Yeah. Remember those things you'd like fold the piece of paper and then get a rubber band? You fold the
instantly dead.
The stinger, yeah.
Falls down a tube. The very last part about this thing is that the parents very recently, a couple days ago actually, like last Friday, got the warrants, whatever it is, to exhume the body again. So they're digging him up again to do another investigation, and they're trying to get funding for it.
Did they when they dug it up this last time, did they just say, it's just old news?
I think that.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Wow, that's amazing.
All right.
Oh, that sucks.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You guys
Thank
definitely
you.
got it. You got it, Justin. You definitely got the correct. I think what it would be the correct answer at this point in
Yeah.
time for the mysterious death, but the
just
tale is
embarrassing.
weird.
It sucks.
But it's
embarrassingly
interesting.
strange.
It's not necessarily mysterious, but it is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
the
pretty
death isn't. But how weird the family acted.
Yeah.
Although,
it's still
dude,
unresolved.
You know what?
Things like that like keep me up sometimes. Like if I ever fall on like, a legal left-handed cigarette out here in California and I start getting a little paranoid, I'm like, what if I fall into a gym mat upside down while trying to reach something
It's very specific.
and I get stuck in the gym mat and die?
John, you realize that he wasn't reading something in the gym mat, right?
You know what he was reading?
The news.
He's like, I know, I'll eat my way out of this predicament, and then here we are later. Up to our elbows, no organs, just newspaper.
All right.
Pretty good. So, Adam, let me ask you a question. When you started reading it, what did you think you were going to find?
Since it was still technically unresolved and it still kind of is, I assumed that it was less. I don't know. I didn't think that he just like fell in there because the shoe thing to me just seemed like weird. Like
The
keep
shoe
your
sitting on
shoes-
top of his body?
Like the thing that they kept shoes in gym mats to not pay the fees, but like
That's
how
not weird.
how did they not like what do they usually do? Just tip them over and then get the shoes out? And then this time there was just so many that he was like, screw it, I'm going in.
Or maybe he, like, you wedge them in the top and they don't fall all the way down or something. I don't really know how big a wrestling mat is, though. Like, it must be pretty heavy.
It's like
Yeah, I feel like he could have just tipped it over horizontally and then he's good, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, why would you do that? Why would
That
you just tip
seems
it
like-
over and then get the shoes?
Yeah.
Well, hindsight is, but he probably thought it was a quick fix. Oh, it's just a little ways down, and then
Yeah.
they fell, and then he fell, and then the whole thing. I mean, it's a freak
I mean,
accident.
It makes sense. I just at first I was like, this is weird. I don't think I believe that he just dove into that to get a pair of shoes.
Right.
Turns out that's probably what he did.
Yeah. I had never heard of this. I just got on a list of unsolved or mysterious deaths, murders, whatever it was. And the one and it was literally based on his name, and then there was like a sentence. So the sentence I read was something along the lines of, "Man was shot with 60 eyewitnesses and no one was convicted." So I'm going to take you back in time a little bit.
They shoot the eyewitnesses at him or the eyewitnesses saw him get shot?
You son of a bitch.
So
60 people witnessed this man get shot, and there was no conviction. There was no one even arrested.
Discuss.
What I'm talking about, taking you back to the mid 1970s, in a tiny ass town called Skidmore, Missouri. It's a tiny farming town. It literally has like a street and a bunch of buildings with paint peeling off of it. It has a population of 250 people. It's the kind of place where everybody knows everybody else, right? Pretty much everybody's in everybody's business. Everybody knows. It's the square footage of the town is 0.3 square miles. This is a small place.
I can't even picture that.
Right. It looks like it literally looks like a street where two streets intersect, and there's like a couple buildings on each way, and then it's just farmland. And it's dust in the parking.
It's like a hamlet, if you will.
I won't. I'm just kidding. You had me at ham.
On a side note, Skidmore, Missouri is where Justin buys his underwear. So
Skidmore, me sorry.
Skidmore, misery.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So it has a gas station, it has a bar and grill, it has a town hall, and like 2 or 3 more buildings.
Okay.
All right, so there's a guy that lives there. He was born in the 1930s, so it's hard for me to like keep in track of how old people are. But this guy was born in the 30s. He was 15th of 16 children. His name is Ken McElroy.
It's like half the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the 15th of 16 children, and he ends up growing up. He ends up being a big guy. He's got dark curly hair. He's like a burly, beefy dude. He's got like big like chops that come down his sideburns. Just to kind of like so you can get a picture. And he's just a big, heavy set brow. All this stuff like looks like a big galoot, right? And throughout his like time here, he like had a farm, and he was actually kind of like a menace to this small town. But he was so big, and the law never caught up with him, that he was like the bully of this little town. And like most of he was indicted 21 times according to his lawyer, and convicted once.
For what?
So he was indicted on things like sexual harassment, or not sexual harassment, but sexual assault rather.
Tackling the wrong quarterback.
Stealing sheep, stealing livestock, arson. Well, it's a farming town. So he's like, but
Sometimes, whenever you think you're from a small town, you hear a story about another small town where somebody got in trouble for stealing sheep.
we're from a metropolis by comparison.
Yeah, my God.
500,000 people compared to this. So,
plus, by the way, in 0.3 square miles, where do you hide the sheep that you just took? Like,
so
that's find them pretty.
So
quick.
that's the town itself, but the farmland. People live, out. They go into town to the shop to get, there's a grocery store. There was like not much there. So he'd been married a couple times. He had been charged with numerous felonies. His lawyer estimated about 3 a year since he became an adult. And he was convicted once. At one point, he got married and had a couple kids, and he was married to. He started seeing a 13-year-old woman as like a mid-20s guy, got her pregnant, and then married her to like get the charges dropped or whatever, or to have no charges.
I thought you were going to say get the family sheep.
I actually think 13 is legal consent in Missouri, so it doesn't really matter.
Not that you've researched it extensively.
Oh no, you guys froze.
So he left that woman when he started dating another 12-year-old. In 1971, he met a girl named Trina when she was only 12 years old, and within 2 years, she was expecting her first child.
God.
He married her. He, during some point... Yeah, no. It's because he didn't want to get arrested for whatever he was doing.
I like how he was with a 13-year-old, and then they were like, he'll be all right. Then he gets to a 12-year-old, son, you have crossed the line.
No, the 13-year-old was looked down upon too, but he's like training in for a newer model. I'm like, God damn it. So his full name was Ken Rex McElroy. And so locally he was known as Ken Rex. Yeah, so he
Creative.
He had been like bullying this town. Like people wouldn't mess with him. They would pick fights with him, or he would pick fights with people, and like the law would never, they could never like get him on anything. The local police couldn't do anything. None of the authorities could do anything. Well, he got this girl pregnant. He had a couple kids, and at one point, this is kind of where I said he got convicted one time out of his 21 indictments. While he was shopping in the town grocery store, his kid had picked up something, and the grocer said, "Hey, she needs to pay for that." And Ken got affronted by this and like threatened the guy. Then came back with a gun a couple days later while the grocer was like loading stuff out of a truck and behind his store, like the alley behind his store, and shot him in the neck. And he didn't die, but he actually, he was injured, but he wasn't like gravely injured. He survived the grocer. So this guy got convicted of that. And so the whole town fucking hated him.
Well, yeah.
Basically. And so questions?
As if the pedophilia wasn't enough.
Was he married to one of these women?
He was married. This was his, I want to say this was the Trina, the 12-year-old. That was his third wife.
So at this point in time, it was not illegal to do that?
I don't think so. Or I don't know.
That would be the easy way to just take him in, right?
Well, I think the law was like kind of intimidated by him. Like the local police just were like, what are we going to do? He'd go out to the land to talk to him, and he'd shoot at him and stuff.
Well, don't they have guns?
I'm just
police over there.
Yeah,
there's only so many bullets, but he had an infinite amount of sheep. So
yeah,
he had like 300 sheep with shields on them.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like Sparta, but yeah.
Oh,
if you could FELTs, but as a sheep, do it.
Wait,
Fielties.
okay. so he goes home and grabs what, a pistol?
I've shot rifles, shotguns. I don't know, 22s. I don't know what he's shooting back with. So for what? For shooting the grocery store guy?
Yeah, the grocery store guy.
I think he went to his truck and got it, or maybe he came back a couple days later. It wasn't clear. It wasn't like somebody was following him.
Surprise.
It wasn't like somebody was following him the whole time. He just showed back up days later, still holding the grudge.
You mean his Prius?
Yeah, he pulled up. He pulled up in his Prius. Yeah,
pulled out his AK.
Right. Yeah, he pulled his AK. Let's see. So he's married to this girl. He's got a couple kids with her now, and so that was in 1971. He started dating that 12-year-old. Fast forward through all this terrible shit he's doing, all these people that they've he's getting indicted means that basically he's been charged with these things and not convicted. Like they never could make it stick. Mm-hmm. And this is 30 years of time where they're having to deal with all this shit. He's wreaking out the havoc he's wreaking on this town. So now we're at July 9th, which is actually a couple days from today, 1981.
She's 22 now. It's too old.
Time to trade up.
he's sitting in his truck. Him and his wife are sitting in the truck outside of the town bar, basically. And a couple buildings down, the entire town, estimated between 50 and 70 people, are having a town meeting about him. Talking about he's a menace. We've got to do something. We can't live like this anymore. They're just living under this guy's thumb in complete fear of how he might retaliate. Especially really spiked by his attack on the grocer guy. So that meeting lets out, and a shot rings out through the back of his truck, because you can see, they paint the picture of, you can see the two silhouettes, him in the driver's seat and the wife in the passenger seat. And all of a sudden, his 22-year-old wife that he's been dating since she was 12, just hears a gunshot, the glass shatter, and her husband slump over dead in the driver's seat.
It's a good shot.
Yes. Trina.
Side note, 10 faithful years to a teenager. Good for him, man. You know what I mean?
Because of the drama.
He's getting his life back on track.
Absolutely not.
He was going by Rex on Facebook now.
Sometimes he still likes to see what his ex 13-year-old is up to. Now,
God, she looks so adult now.
Man, she got fat.
She did, though. I saw a picture of her. She did. So this dude, so the whole town basically had just poured into the street leaving this meeting, and then somebody shoots this guy, and the police come, they do the crime scene, whatever. The Trina gives her statement to the police that she swore that she just before the shots were fired, she looked over her shoulder and saw one of the local cowboys pull a rifle from their pickup truck and take aim at Ken. She swore to the law and 3 grand juries that the man was a guy named Del Clement. He was a local member of a prominent ranching family. And that guy has actually since died and did not confess to anything. The Del Clement
name meets the Missouri quota, so that's good. Yeah,
checks out.
Wait, so she claims that someone drove up beside, shot through that rear window, and hit him in the back of the head as they drove by.
Somebody got a gun out of their truck and came up and shot him.
Oh, on foot.
Yeah.
Through the glass behind, on the cab behind, through the glass.
Right.
Or
yes.
The window
right.
on the side. Oh, okay.
I think on in the behind.
Okay. Interesting.
So through all this stuff, he had been terrorizing this town, and he had been avoiding prosecution on all these charges: assault, rape. He shot a guy, and he got out of most of these charges by witness intimidation. He would go threaten the people involved.
Yeah.
So people hated this dude.
How do you have a trial in a place like this when everybody knows who you are?
I don't know.
Wouldn't everybody give him a non-fair trial? Wouldn't that have to go to the state?
Well, that's the whole point, is that they couldn't have enough evidence. They wouldn't be able to, because the witnesses would be scared for their lives. He didn't.
In a town that small, the judge is like a hound dog or something. You know what I mean?
It's a bale of hay in a robe.
All day he's just chasing those sheep around. Oh, Judge.
As long as you bring him sheep.
Wait, I'm sorry. He's a judge? No, it's just a dog we named Judge. Shit. It was a good dog name.
The judge has spoken.
How's it? Judge, how's this case looking? Rough.
Low-hanging fruit, but
Yeah,
I'll
it
take
is.
it.
Yeah. So the police chief, these the names for these people are amazing. So the first guy's name was Ken Rex McElroy. The guy that supposedly killed him, Del Clement.
Yep.
Police chief Hal Riddle.
Yep. Not
Which
to be
is
confused with Tom Marvolo Riddle.
no,
obviously.
right? Yeah, Harry Potter. Gotcha.
If your last name is a verb that's typically done on a front porch on a hot summer day, you know what I mean. That's how you know you're in Missouri.
Damn much.
Tom Whittle.
Hey, I'm Hal Riddle. Chief.
My name
Chief.
is Dale Sweet Sassy Molassie Clement.
You want to know how you earned that nickname? You don't.
How south do you think Missouri is?
It's a fun.
Below Louisiana. Or something.
It's further south than right.
I think there's some backwoods stuff going on there.
Totally.
I'm sure.
So the county prosecutors is the guy that's got to deal with this. His name's David Baird, and he's like young, just out of law school, and this is his first case. And so he keeps making all these like statements to the press and to the public, like, we'll get the guy that did this, we'll bring justice. But no matter what they do, the police, the county investigators, whatever, interviewing people, everyone's like, yeah, I didn't see anything. 60 eyewitnesses, nobody saw anything. 60 people eyewitnessed that out in this tiny 2 streets intersecting town. Nobody saw anything, or said they saw anything.
They all wanted
Right.
So, yeah.
That's well,
If you're a witness by default, doesn't that mean that you were there? Doesn't that mean that you like saw something? I mean, you can't have 6 people who are like, yeah, I'm a witness, but I didn't see anything. Wouldn't you be like,
there was a big airplane flying by. We all were watching it.
I don't think you know the definition of witness.
So that is it. You're exactly right. There were 60 people present, 40 to 60 people. Yeah. Basically, all the people leaving that meeting.
Yeah.
And no one saw anything. Wink.
Do you think there was like a plot?
Oh yeah,
like they all plotted.
Well, they were just so they
were these all sheep in people's clothes.
Tired of getting rustled.
One of them just has like a knife up to the hound dog's throat. He's like, "You could kill anybody."
You'll be judge. I'll be
news for you, Rex.
Yeah. Send you out to pasture. Wait, that's a horse. Is that a horse?
You know, just farm animal jokes in general we'll do here, actually.
God damn. So they interrogated 60. They actually interrogated 120 different people. Or interviewed 120 different people trying to get evidence. They interviewed the guy Del Clement, the one that Trina said she saw do it, 2 or 3 different times. A couple years later, like 2 years later, the FBI got involved and conducted their own investigation, re-interviewing all these people, a lot of them the second time. And people that lived there would...
Imagine being an FBI agent assigned to that fucking case. Like, really, this is what the FBI is for? Like, who gives that crap at some point?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, right. Because you're like, okay, so what was he guilty of? Well, he stole some sheep. He shot old man Grocery in the neck.
Osama bin Laden is plotting as we speak, and you have me going after Rex Clement over here, or whatever the hell his name was.
This is in 1981, so Osama bin Laden hadn't been doing nothing.
There's actually a song about this incident. It's called "I Sheared the Sheriff."
But I did not see the deputy.
God damn it.
Yeah,
it's funny. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so FBI comes out.
Yeah, so they basically reconduct the same thing and with the same result. Nobody will talk. Everybody said they didn't see anything. And they said that the people in the town would say like 1 person or 2 people would be interviewed. Like, they'd talk to them and then everyone else would like know about it. Because they said the FBI would show up in a dark car in pairs of 2 dressed in suits, and no one else in that town dressed that way. So it was very obvious when people showed up, and the whole town knew very quickly to shut up.
Small
So
towns.
right. So the evidence they found 2 bullet casings from 2 different guns found at the scene. And no one had
guns.
2 different guns, right? And no one had ever been brought to trial in this death, ever. Now there is no statute of limitations on murder, but most of the residents don't think anyone ever will be charged.
So what did the shell casings say? Anything? Did they know? What kind of guns
One of them, yeah. I mean, apparently it wasn't any kind of evidence. I mean, usable evidence.
Just normal shell casings that just litter the ground in this town.
Skidmore, Missouri.
You know, I know this is kind of dark, but at some point it's like, I feel like the higher authorities were like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were just like, you know, tiny ass town, 0.3 square miles. Like the local town bully that was already committing crimes and getting away with it, like gets assassinated, as it were. And it's like, you know, somebody was just like, well, you know.
I mean, that's got to be the
Things
synopsis.
happen.
That's got to be what people are thinking too, right? Because they're all get out of a town meeting talking about him. I mean, it looks a little fishy when you're like, hey, what's that town meeting about? We're like, well, we all gathered to talk about this guy, and then he just happens to die.
Sitting
like,
outside
you
of
want
it.
to change that story? Like,
We were talking about putting in a park.
over his grave.
Putting the bathroom right on top of it. Yeah, so the weapons were a 22 caliber Magnum and an 8mm Mauser, which I don't really know. I'm not a gun guy, so I don't know what those are.
That is, yeah, okay.
8mm, that's like this big. God damn it,
Yeah,
Adam.
but a Magnum.
According to Adam's European conversions.
Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so he Trina in 1984 sued the town for his wrongful death, and she was seeking $6 million. The suit was settled out of court for about $17,000, although no wrongdoing was ever admitted by any of the parties. Yeah, he essentially married. So the reason he got married to these young kids was because he married his statutory rape victim, so he couldn't be charged. That's how he was basically to get out of those crimes. That was the whole point of that.
Yeah, but then you still marry somebody underage, so you're just getting into another crime. It's like,
this is crazy. I forgot to tell you about this. All right, so after the birth of his first child with the 12-year-old Trina, he got in a fight with what's the word? So he took her back to his house because she ran away to her parents. She's 12-year-old. She ran away from his house to her parents' house. He went to get her, and when her mom and stepfather wouldn't let him marry her, so he went back to their house and killed their dog and set their house on fire.
oh my God, the judge?
No.
No wonder this didn't see any traction. Wait,
No
he killed their dog and he set their house on fire?
Burning it to the ground.
What? And then he just took her?
Yeah.
Or she was just like, hey, I got no house now. He was like, you can stay at mine.
The dad was like, you know what, son? I respect your gumption. You can have my daughter's hand in marriage.
This was all a test. So yeah, he was shot in broad daylight, and there's actually a book and I think a movie called just that, In Broad Daylight, in front of 60 people, just shot dead.
So this was like, what time? It was like in the afternoon or something? Because
it was in the morning. It was kind of like early morning.
Damn, these people have some balls to do that
in the morning. Yeah.
So it's like, I want to say it was like, like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's like post coffee. You know, like I'm getting
all amped up on coffee.
Day. Yeah, it's gotta be the coffee.
Fuck, blame the coffee. Right. So they never found anybody. Some of the people that were involved have started. I mean, it happened in 1981. So it's this 60 eyewitnesses, not a single conviction. It was vigilante justice by an entire town.
So okay, so his wife or whatever, and now she's just
his widow.
Wants
yeah,
justice. She just wants justice. Is that it? Like she's just.
I guess so. I mean, I think she's changed her name and she's kind of
on Facebook.
Yeah, it's a Rex.
So she's taking Rex.
Yeah, so she changed. She's getting back into it.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
Did they bury him and stuff and put him in the graveyard or cemetery?
I didn't really read about that. I don't know. But I imagine they must have buried him somewhere next to his parents or something, probably, right? That's how they do that stuff.
I guess.
All right. So, what did you think that case was going to be about, or was it not really kind of a? It's not really It's not really unsolved. I think it's pretty obvious what happened.
Yeah, but so is mine. I mean, it's still unsolved. There's no.
And it's not. It's just a little. It's weird that there were 60 eyewitnesses, but that the whole town was like, nope, this guy needed to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it obviously points to the fact that they were in on it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how could they not be in on it?
Well, and there was a quote from the wife of the grocer that he shot and threatened to kill. She said, "The town is well rid of him, and justice is served."
Man, that's a callback to justice is served with the old grandma too. In my story, so much justice being served.
Yeah, all over the place.
Yeah, it's actually pretty similar. Like in that same vein, where like you know what happened, kind of. You have a good inkling about what happened, but there's no closure.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
This one you don't feel bad though. You don't feel bad for that guy.
No, I felt bad for the kid. This guy, he fucking deserved it. What a piece of shit.
Sounds like a schmuck.
Stealing sheep. Who does that?
Yeah. Like
he was rustling cattle or whatever. Weird. That's kind of all I've got for that one. I thought it was pretty fascinating reading through it. I like the kind of unsolvedness of it, but it was interesting learning stuff. I thought the concept of the podcast was pretty cool. And that's it for this episode of Research and Destroy. You can find us at facebook.com/researchanddestroypodcast. You can find us on the web at researchanddestroypodcast.com. And if you have any questions or ideas for shows or topics, you can email us show@researchanddestroypodcast.com. On behalf of John, Adam, and myself, Justin, thanks for listening.
It's your story now. You decide what is right.